All right. I know this is 2 days delayed. Usually I do this on Friday, but because I had that video coming on Saturday and I had some other things to do, I didn't really have time. Well, I did have time, but I didn't plan things properly, which usually I'm pretty good at. But this week was a bit of a rough week because I had no less than about 130 exams to grade or something. So, forgive me, but now we're here. Let's see what we can do. Let's continue our talk on Stoicism, and we were going over the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And we have ended up in book 10, and what I wanted to talk to you about today is section 11. Section 11. Adopt a systematic study of the way all things change into one another. Pay constant attention to this aspect of nature and train yourself in it. Nothing is so conducive to greatness of mind. One so trained has divested himself of his body, recognizing that in almost no time he will have to leave all this behind and depart from the world of men. He has devoted his entire self to justice in his own actions, and to the nature of the whole in all things external. He does not even give a thought to what others will say or suppose about him or do against him, but is content to meet these two conditions: his own integrity in each present action, and glad acceptance of his present lot. He has abandoned all other preoccupations and ambitions, and his only desire is to walk the straight path according to law, and, in so doing, to follow the path of God. Now, I think there are a couple of things to talk about here. One thing that I believe is interesting is that this is one of those statements that touches upon a couple of things that we've already touched upon and we've already covered a couple of times. And yet, I'm not sure if I'm a good Stoic. I'm also not sure if I am truly a Stoic. I try to be, but I also know full well that I slip up, as I think everybody does, and therefore I have found that it's very useful to me in my own development to once in a while remind myself of some core tenets of Stoicism. So what Marcus Aurelius touches upon here, I think, is a couple of things that are very interesting and relevant. Even though we may have already covered them before, I think this is a good time for the review, so to speak. And here's what I was thinking. Adopt a systematic study of the way all things change into one another. Pay constant attention to this aspect of nature and train yourself in it. As often, I have to give you my opinion, because this was not, as we've discussed before, this book was never meant to be published. These are thoughts that someone wrote down for himself. My interpretation of that first line is to remember the ever-changing nature of the universe. And although that may sound a little vague, if not hippie-esque, I think it is a very important viewpoint and one to really bear in mind. Because when you remind yourself, at least occasionally, that everything is continuously in motion, that things change continuously, one thing changes into another thing, and thus the whole ebb and flow of time continues, I think that can be a powerful aid when you are going through, say, a difficult period in life or a different period of time, because you can try to remind yourself that it is only temporary. It will change. Maybe it'll become even worse, but at the very least, whatever you are going through will change. It will become different. And I think that's the first thing to occasionally remind yourself of. Whatever I'm going through, It is by definition a temporary thing. And sometimes I find that in its own regard helpful. Okay, what was the second thing I want to talk about? Recognizing that in almost no time he will have to leave all this behind and depart from the world of men. He has devoted his entire self to justice in his own actions and to the nature of the whole in all things external. He does not even give a thought to what others will say or suppose about him or do against him, but is content to meet these two conditions: his own integrity in each present action and glad acceptance of his present lot. That last line is as Stoic as it gets. There always is discussion, isn't there, about Marcus Aurelius, about many of the Stoics, of whom we actually have sources, whether or not they are true Stoics. I think it is hard to argue that someone like Epictetus is not a Stoic. He was trained by a Stoic. He taught, in my mind, complete Stoic philosophy. But when it comes to Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, things are always a bit more complicated, as is sometimes pointed out to me in more or less kind terms on this channel. Sorry, small sidetrack. Seneca, I think, is highly dubious as a Stoic. Seneca did several things in his life that are decidedly unstoic. He was absolutely a student of philosophy, and he was a beautiful author. I mean, he could write beautifully. I'm not saying he was a beautiful man necessarily. That was an ambiguous sentence. I have to explain all these things, right? Otherwise, we say, oh, do you think he was? No, that's not what I'm saying. But Seneca often quoted Epicurus, for example, who is diametrically opposed to the Stoics. Epicureanism and Epicureanism. Oh no, I can't speak anymore. The school of Epicurus and the school of the Stoics are those are diametrically opposed. And some things that Seneca says are definitely Stoic. When it comes to Marcus Aurelius, I don't think he himself describes himself as a Stoic, but I do think that he shows many very Stoic approaches to how he thinks and reasons. Anyway, that was a small sidetrack. I'm just saying, right? That's a good thing to bear in mind. Having said that, so recognizing that in almost no time he will have to leave all this behind and depart from the world of men, he has devoted his entire self to justice in his own actions and to the nature of the whole in all things external. The memento mori, remember that life is not eternal, that comes back very often in Marcus Aurelius' writings, as we have seen numerous times. So I don't really want to belabor that point, but that in itself also a good thing to remind yourself of once in a while, right? Life is not going to last forever. So if you keep putting off certain things and you keep not doing certain things, at some point it may be too late. So the best time to start is now, right? Not tomorrow, but now. I like this statement about he has devoted his entire self to justice in his own actions. Again, one of the four virtues that Stoics really adhere to, right? Justice, doing the right thing, and also not doing the not right thing. So, doing the right thing. And to the nature of the whole in all things external. The nature of the whole. Remember, from a Stoic viewpoint, if you go against nature, then you will suffer, because you're trying to go against certain things happening in your life that you may simply not have control over. And if you try to do that, invariably you will suffer, because you try to do things outside of your control, make things happen outside of your control, and that becomes frustrating and can make you anxious, or you can become depressed, or any of those things. And I really, as I said, I really like this last sentence. He does not even give a thought to what others will say or suppose about him or do against him. Very Stoic. What others say or do about you doesn't matter. What matters is your actions. And when your actions are proper, first of all, what can other people say? And even if they do say things, then does it matter to you? You can't control what other people say about you, but you can control how you react to what other people say to you. That is one that I find very difficult, and that I still struggle with sometimes. I'm getting better, but I still struggle with sometimes. It's hard. It's hard sometimes to be fully in control of how you respond to someone, but also to realize that someone else's response is not your responsibility, right? It's on them. They choose how they respond. All you can do is choose how to respond to them. And then I have this final part of this sentence, which I think is the epitome of Stoicism. But is content to meet these two conditions, his own integrity in each present action, and glad acceptance of his present lot. When you are doing whatever it is you are doing with integrity, then you are doing the right thing. And then nothing can be held against you, because you are doing the right thing. And secondly, if you accept your present lot, which sometimes is hard, but if you can do that, and I think you don't suffer, because you're not giving yourself feelings of anxiety, you're not giving yourself feelings of depression, you are content with what's going on. And that may not always be easy. Sometimes very unpleasant things happen in life. But the better able you are to accept them, at least for the time being, I think the easier many aspects of life become. And that's it. So I'm sorry this was 2 days late. I am sorry. I'm not being sarcastic. I am sorry. I wanted to do it on Friday, but I simply didn't have time. Here we go. I hope this was useful. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have other interpretations of this specific section, because again, with Marcus Aurelius, I always find it's often a bit of a struggle to figure out what you think he may have meant or said. And that's it. So, hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Next week, back on Friday. Have a good week. Bye!